My name is Claire Bishop. On the morning of September 11th, 2025, just 24 hours after the assassination of Charlie Kirk had ripped the country in half, I died from a brain aneurysm in the silence of my high school library. The last thing I did on earth was fight with my brother about what Charlie Kirk's death meant. I'm 48 years old, a librarian. For 25 years, my world has been the quiet rustle of turning pages and the gentle beep of the checkout scanner. My life was supposed to be orderly, calm, but outside the walls of my library, the world had gotten so loud, so angry, and that anger had invaded my life and poisoned my family. My older brother, Mark, and I used to be inseparable, but in recent years, we drifted into opposite worlds. Mark saw Charlie Kirk as a hero, a patriot fighting for the soul of America. I just saw the division. I saw the anger he stirred up, and it frightened me. To Mark, he was a courageous voice. To me, his show was the soundtrack of my family falling apart. The day he was killed was the worst it had ever been. Mark called me, his voice choked with a mixture of grief and pure rage. They finally did it, he wept. They murdered him. I didn't feel his grief. I only felt his anger, and I met it with my own cold logic. Violence is always a tragedy, Mark, I said, my voice sterile and distant. But an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. It was the wrong thing to say. He exploded. We argued, shouting over the phone, until I sent him a final, cutting text message. You care more about a man on the radio than your own sister. I hit send with trembling hands, my heart a cold, hard knot in my chest. I felt justified, but utterly alone. I went to work the next morning with that bitterness still sitting like a stone in my stomach. I never got a text back. The aneurysm hit without any warning. I was shelving books in the history section. I remember looking at a photo of Abraham Lincoln and thinking how tired he looked. Then, a sudden blinding flash of light behind my eyes, like a camera flash going off inside my skull. There was no pain, just an overwhelming sense of pressure, and then, nothing. The world didn't fade to black. It just switched off. My body crumpled to the floor, and I was gone before I even hit the ground. The first thing I was aware of was a feeling of release. The heavy, cold knot of anger in my chest was gone. The bitterness toward Mark, the frustration, it all just lifted off me. I felt light. I felt free. I opened my eyes, and I was floating near the high ceiling of the library, looking down. I saw my own body lying awkwardly between the shelves. I saw Mr. Henderson, the janitor, pushing his cart down the hallway. I saw him turn into the library, stop, and his face go pale with shock. I heard his frantic call to 911. But as I watched, I felt a sacred peace. It wasn't me down there anymore. The argument wasn't mine. I was watching a story about a sad, tired woman, and my heart went out to her, but I was no longer her. A gentle fog, the color of twilight, began to fill the room, obscuring the scene below. I felt a gentle pull, a current of peace drawing me away from the world of noise and into a world of perfect silence. I turned from the fading scene and gave myself over to it. I was in a place of profound stillness. No walls, no ground, no sky. Just an endless, gentle quiet. For the first time in years, my soul was at rest. Then the silence began to change. It began to hum with a love so pure it felt like the building block of reality itself. A warmth spread through the twilight, a light that radiated from everywhere at once. And in the center of that light and love, I felt a presence. It was Jesus. I knew it with a certainty that went beyond thought or sight. His presence was like the final, resolving chord of a beautiful song. His gaze fell upon me, and in that instant I was understood. the whole tangled story of my life, my love for my brother, my fear, my pride, it all unspooled before him. And the only thing I felt coming from him was a compassion so deep it felt like a tidal wave. It washed away all my shame. His voice wasn't a sound, it was a feeling of truth that bloomed directly in my soul. "Claire," he said, "welcome home. Be at peace." I began to weep with a joy so intense it was painful. Every wall I had built around my heart just crumbled into dust. "Lord," my soul whispered, "I'm so sorry. My brother, our fight about that man." "I know," he said, and in those two words was all the grace in the universe. "But your journey is not over. There is something I must show you concerning the death of Charles Kirk. Look." The twilight around us swirled and transformed. We were watching America from above. I saw millions of hearts, all connected in a vast web. And I saw two spiritual rivers flowing through the land, both originating from the moment of Kirk's death. The first river was a raging black torrent of rage. It was fed by the assassination. As it flowed, I saw people wearing T-shirts with Charlie Kirk's face on them, their own faces twisted in hatred. I saw them using his name, his memory, as a justification for vengeance. I saw my brother Mark in his truck, watching clips of Kirk's speeches, his fists clenched, tears of fury streaming down his face as the dark river of rage swept him up. "This is the great deception," Jesus' voice echoed with sorrow. "They have taken the memory of this man and forged it into a sword. They have made him a martyr, an icon, and in his name they feel righteous in their hatred. The enemy loves nothing more than to use the memory of a dead man to lead my children to spiritual death. They seek vengeance in his name, but they do not seek my heart." Then he showed me the other river. It was so much smaller, almost a trickle. It was clear and quiet. It was made of people praying specifically for Charlie Kirk's wife and children. It was made of people who, whether they agreed with him or not, were on their knees asking for God to have mercy on his soul and to bring peace to a nation rocked by violence. This river wasn't about the icon. It was about the man, a husband, a father, a son, a soul created by God who had met a violent end. "This is the river of the Spirit," Jesus said. "It does not build monuments to men. It builds bridges of prayer to me. It honors a life not by seeking revenge for its ending, but by praying for the soul that has passed and for the peace of the souls left behind." "What can I do?" I cried, watching my brother drowning in his righteous anger. "He thinks he's honoring him." "He is honoring an idea, an icon," Jesus corrected gently. "I am sending you back to teach him to honor God. You fought with him over the man. I am sending you back to unite with him in prayer to me." The thought of returning was terrifying. The peace I felt here was everything I had ever wanted. To leave it, to go back to the noise and the pain, it was unthinkable. "Please, Lord, no," I begged. "Let me stay here with you. I'm too tired." His voice was impossibly gentle. "My child, your rest is waiting for you, and it is secure. But your brother's heart is not. I am sending you back, not to win an argument, but to save your brother from the deception. Go back and show him the river of peace. Pray with him for the family of Charles Kirk. Lead him from the river of vengeance to the river of prayer." He showed me a vision of myself, sitting with Mark. In the vision, I said to him, "Mark, let's pray for his kids." And I saw the anger in my brother's face collapse, replaced by a sudden, human grief. I saw the dark river recede from him as he was anchored by a simple act of prayer. The mission was clear. It was terrifying, but it was clear. "Go," he whispered. "I am with you." And with that final promise, I felt myself being pulled away, back towards the world. The perfect peace began to fade, replaced by the ghost of earthly pain and the echo of a siren's wail. My first sensation was a violent gasp for air. It felt like my lungs were made of fire. My eyes flew open to the blinding lights of an emergency room. A nurse shouted my name. The world came rushing back in a chaotic wave, but the worst part was the silence in my soul where his presence had been. I sobbed uncontrollably, not from the pain, but from the loss. My doctor later told me it was a miracle. I had been gone for 22 minutes, a massive, non-survivable aneurysm. There was no medical reason I should be alive, let alone have zero brain damage. When my family rushed in, the first person I saw was Mark. He stood in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes red-rimmed and filled with a haunted, fearful look. He started to speak, to apologize for our fight. I held up a weak hand to stop him. I knew what I had to do. "Mark," I whispered, my voice hoarse, "you're right to be grieving, but we're going about it the wrong way. Can we just pray for his family, for his children?" I saw a war of emotions in his eyes. The anger was still there, wanting to lash out, but something else was there too, a flicker of the brother I grew up with. He nodded slowly, his chin trembling. He took my hand, and right there in the middle of the ICU, we prayed. We prayed for the soul of Charlie Kirk and for the wife and children he left behind. And as we prayed, I felt it. The quiet, clear river of the Spirit flowing between us, washing away the anger, leaving only a shared human grief. A grief that could finally begin to heal. I was sent back with a message. God didn't show me this because of Charlie Kirk's politics, or to tell me if he was right or wrong. He showed me this because of our hearts. He showed me how easily the enemy takes a man, any man, a politician, a pastor, a celebrity, and helps us turn him into an idol to be worshipped or a demon to be hated. The great deception is to get us so focused on fighting for or against a man's name that we forget to call on God's name. So I'm asking you, whoever you are, whatever you believe about that man or any public figure, to stop. Stop fighting. Stop letting any human being be the source of division in your family. Instead, do the one thing the enemy cannot stand. Pray. Pray for their souls. Pray for their families. Turn from the loud, raging river of vengeance and step into the quiet, healing river of prayer. It's the only thing that can heal a family, and it's the only thing that will ever heal our world.